Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, The Life Divine, with our beloved Ranga. Before we begin, we have an announcement to make. On Darshan Day, February 29th, I met a gentleman whose name was Sambuddha Banerjee. And he asked me if I could come to his hotel, which was actually very near my house, because he had a gift for Ranganathan, quote, who opened the life divine for me. So I went with him, and he gave me this book for you. The Lost Footsteps.
Wonderful.
There you are.
Thank you. Wonderful.
So we begin with the line, we shall understand better if we go back at once to the original principle of things.
Yeah. So, before we start the para, I'll give you the gist of what you said earlier, in the earlier para, so that we get the continuity.
On matter.
Yes. What he said in the earlier para, okay? Is matter as we perceive it with our five senses a reality? That's the question. That's what he's discussing in that para. Very often you have to give a question to yourself to know what he is going to discuss. If you don't put that question, you will miss what he is saying. He is answering without the question. So if we put the question to ourselves, it becomes very clear what he is talking about. So often I supply the question so that we know what he is talking about. Is matter as we perceive it with our five senses a reality? No, it is not, because our senses are limited and give us only partial images of the physical world. Example, our eye does not see ultraviolet and infrared. Our ear does not hear high decibel sounds nor low decibel sounds which bats and dogs can hear. Also, in comparison with higher states of consciousness, the material world appears as mere images, shadows. So, science says that matter is nothing but energy. It is quite right, but this is a partial truth. When spiritual experience reveals matter to be pure subtle substance, which is conscious of itself at its origin, then we have a greater truth. Now the question crops up, why should spirit take form of matter and not rest content with pure energy or settle itself into states of velleities or joys? We are told by certain philosophies that matter is the creation of sense. Senses send data to the manas, the physical mind, which interprets the data into visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory and tactile experiences. If senses do not exist, the world does not exist for the individual. But that is not acceptable because the universe existed before man or animal. So, could there be a universal mind which has created matter for the habitation of the spirit? This implies a creative power. But why should spirit create matter at all in the first place? He is ending with this question. Why should spirit at all create matter? That's what he's going to discuss now. So, we shall understand better if we go back at once to the original principle of things. Existence is in its activity a conscious force which presents the workings of its force to its consciousness as forms of its own being. Since force is only the action of one sole existing conscious being, its results can be nothing else but forms of that conscious being. Substance or matter, then, is only a form of spirit. the appearances which this form of spirit assumes to our senses is due to that dividing action of mind from which we have been able to deduce consistently the whole phenomenon of the universe. We know now that life is an action of conscious force of which material forms are the result. Life involved in those forms, appearing in them first as inconscient force, evolves and brings back into manifestation as mind the consciousness which is the real self of the force and which never ceases to exist in it even when unmanifest. We know also that mind is an inferior power of the original conscious knowledge or supermind, a power to which life acts as an instrumental energy. For descending through supermind, consciousness or chit represents itself as mind, force of consciousness, or tapas represents itself as life. Mind, by its separation from its own higher reality in supermind, gives life the appearance of division, and by its farther involution in its own life force, becomes subconscious in life and thus gives the outward appearance of an inconscient force to its material workings. Therefore, the inconscience, the inertia, the atomic disaggregation of matter must have their source in this all-dividing and self-involving action of mind by which our universe came into being. As mind is only a final action of supermind in the descent towards creation, and life an action of conscious force working in the conditions of the ignorance created by this descent of mind, so matter, as we know it, is only the final form taken by conscious being as a result of that working. Matter is substance of the one conscious being, phenomenally divided within itself by the action of a universal mind, a division which the individual mind repeats and dwells in, but which does not abrogate or at all diminish the unity of spirit or the unity of energy or the real unity of matter. Pretty complex. Okay, so we go back to the beginning and do it sentence by sentence. Right. So, as we said, he is discussing why at all does spirit create matter. That's a basic question he is going to deal with. Okay, so we shall understand better if we go back at once to the original principle of things. So, the original principle of things, Satchidananda. So, Satchidananda creates the universe through supermind. This is the basic fact. Supermind, the Satchidananda itself does not create because it is one and static condition. So, you need something that can put that static into action. So, on the other hand, the universe is all action without a single moment of rest or poise. There is no pause or poise at all. So, you need something in between the two so that one can become the other and the higher can become the lower and the lower can become the higher. This is what he discusses, and it is supermind that does that work. If supermind is not there, there will be no universe. It is supermind that does that. So you can compare that to the white light that is Satchidananda is coming down. It is one, but it has to become the many and it has to become limited. So you can consider supermind as a prism. So the white light that comes breaks it up into 7 colors. Only now it is not 7 colors but a million different forms. So supermind plays that role. It takes the formless, gives it form. It takes the infinite and gives it finite forms. Itself, it is formless, Satchidananda is formless, it gives it form. It is one, it becomes a many. This is the work of supermind. So supermind is not the highest plane of consciousness, it is the intermediate plane linking spirit and matter. This is what has to be firmly understood. So now if that is there, now he is saying supermind becomes mind. Ananda becomes the psychic being. Chit Shakti, that is consciousness force, becomes life or vital in individual. And Sat, that is substance, the subtlest of substance. He is using the word conscious being. Being in the sense of substance. Okay? Conscious being. He uses often the word existence. So that Sat is becoming gross matter here. This is the correspondence between the higher and the lower. Now we read what he is saying. You should be able to understand now. We shall understand better if we go back at once to the original principle of things. Existence is in its activity a conscious force which presents the workings of its force to its consciousness as forms of its own being. Now, just imagine existence is this substance, subtle substance which is conscious of itself. Okay? This itself you have to imagine now strongly. It is a substance which is conscious of itself. It's like a rock which is conscious of itself and can mold itself into anything it wants. Now only replace the hard rock by the subtlest of matter. Then you have Satchidananda. Clear? So this, now I read that sentence again. Existence in its activity. Existence can be without activity, it can be static, as in the self. But when it wants to create the world, it has to be active. So existence in its activity is a conscious force. It is force as well as consciousness. Chit Shakti. It is consciousness, it is fully conscious of itself, but it also has the power to mold itself into anything it wants. And that is what it is doing. So what it does, it asks the force to create forms out of its own substance and presents it to consciousness for its own approval. This is Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti is creating forms, Prakriti is force. So Prakriti is creating forms in the universe and presenting them to Purusha consciousness for its own enjoyment. So this is what it is doing. And that is the reason why Prakriti is creating infinitely, without end, constantly all sorts of things. At the physical level, at the vital level, at the plant level, at the animal level, even human level. There are so many different races and each individual is different. So infinite forms being created only for the enjoyment of consciousness.
In his Savitri, Book 1, Canto 4, The Secret Knowledge, he goes through all of this.
Yeah. Okay?
He and she.
Yeah. He and she, that's right. Purusha, Prakriti. Purusha is consciousness, Prakriti is force. But it is always consciousness which is directing his own force to create forms for his own enjoyment. So, and there is a separation. At the highest level, Satchidananda is one. But when you come down, it creates forms in itself because it can't create forms outside itself, there is nothing inside. So it creates within itself, it separates itself from consciousness, separates it from force, allows force to create forms out of what? Its own substance. If substance is not there, what will it create with? So it has to create with substance. That is Sat. So it creates forms out of its own substance and enjoys what is being presented by its own force. You can view them as all one or you can view them as separate. So if you want to view them as separate, it is very easy for us to understand. There is a substance, there is consciousness, there is force. Three different things. So consciousness is telling force, please use my substance which I have and make forms for me to enjoy. And then Prakriti does that. It goes on creating infinite forms and presenting them to Purusha for its own enjoyment. Okay?
Does he not, in Savitri at least, put Purusha as the masculine and Prakriti as feminine?
Yes. It is usually done that, but that's a human convention. Because why is Prakriti shown as feminine? Because in the physical world, it is the woman who creates life. But it is with the sanction and permission of Purusha. Without that, there can be no creation. So, At the highest level, there is no gender. That we must be very clear. But only for our own understanding, because here in the physical world, there is feminine and masculine. There is no feminine and masculine. And it is the feminine that creates life here. So you extend that fact of the physical world to the highest. But actually it is only consciousness and force. Consciousness is considered as masculine and force is considered as feminine. So, now I read that again, you understand. Existence, that is, think of it as substance, is in its activity a conscious force. It is conscious and it has got force, which presents the workings of its force to its consciousness as forms of its own being. Now it's clear? Now?
Yes.
So, since force is only the action of one sole existing conscious being, its results can be nothing else but forms of that conscious being. So, since force, vitality or energy, is only the action of the sole existing conscious being, sole existing, there is nothing else but such another, so it is the only thing that exists, its results can be nothing else but forms of that conscious being. That conscious being which is static goes into activity and produces forms, and forms are nothing but that. You could think of it in another way also. If you think of the conscious being as a substance, think of wood, for instance. Out of wood, you can do so many things. So there is this conscious force which is telling its own force, please use this wood, this substance, and make me things which I can enjoy. So immediately the force starts making chairs, tables, cupboards, everything that you can make out of wood. And it is enjoyed. This will be more concrete, then you can understand what is being said. So since force is only the action of the sole existing conscious being, its results can be nothing else but forms of that conscious being. Substance or matter, so note that, substance or matter then is only a form of spirit. That's right. So which we are going back right to the first chapter where he says spirit and substance and matter are the same. Matter is really Brahman, a form of Brahman. That's right in the first chapter, in the very first page. So he's going back to the origin. So when he says that we shall understand better if we go back to the original, he is not only going back to the original Satchidananda, but he is going back to his own life divine also. Then substance or matter then is only a form of spirit. This form of spirit, this is again, you can take it as for the first definition of matter. He has got many definitions, we'll see one by one. So this is the first definition of matter. What is matter? It is only form of spirit. Note form, because spirit is formless. When the substance of spirit becomes form, then it is matter. When it is formless, it is sat, it is substance, it is existence if you want. You can use these words, existence, you can use the word conscious being, he uses the word also being to show that, which is static. We should not get confused because he uses different words and it is something so vague that we can get lost. So when he says conscious being, it's a substance which is conscious of itself. So the appearance which this form of spirit assumes to our senses is due to the dividing action of mind. Again, that mind, I told you about the prism. The prism is the one that is dividing and giving different forms. So mind is the prism that divides the one into the many. And that's why our senses, we are seeing only the many.
But you said the supramental was prism.
Yeah. You have to be a little flexible. Because supermind and overmind, they are very close to each other. It's the overmind that really makes a division. It starts from there. Supermind has the potentiality of the division. It has got three states. The first state is oneness, the second state is the beginning of multiplicity, and the third state is the multiplicity is more prominent than the oneness. And in overmind, a million forms are all made potentially real now. And that becomes in the physical world, they become realities. In the overmind, million potentialities. And they become in the physical world, they become the actuality, if you want. So, this divide, that's what he's saying, dividing action of mind, from which we have been able to deduce consistently the whole phenomenon of the universe. So, the universe and its multiplicity is because of the created by the supermind and overmind. Yeah, I put an interesting note here. It is the supermind which is the essence, and overmind is practically oozing out the many, if you want. You can think of it in that way. They just come out automatically, and like a river which is flowing, and when it comes to near the sea, it becomes a delta. It separates itself and goes into many things. Very, very similar action. So, now, to deduce consistently the phenomenon of the universe, we know now that life is an action of conscious force. He is repeating what he said earlier, that our vitality, life, is nothing but Chit Shakti. Sat Chit Ananda is the divine triplicity, and that triplicity becomes in the universe body, mind, life. So, body is the matter, life is the Chit Shakti, and mind is the supermind. He is not talking here yet about the Ananda and the psychic being, that he will bring in later. Okay, so we now know that life is an action of conscious force, of which material forms are the result. Life involved in those forms, appearing in them first as inconscient force, evolves and brings back into manifestation as mind the consciousness which is the real self of the force, and which never ceases to exist in it even when unmanifest. Consciousness and force are always together, and when consciousness is producing life, mind also is already involved in life, so it comes out. That's what he's saying. Okay? I'll read that again. We know now that life is an action of conscious force. This is clear. Chit Shakti becomes the vitality here, of which material forms are the result. Life involved in those forms, appearing in them first as inconscient force, evolves and brings back into manifestation as mind the consciousness which is the real self of the force. Mind is the most conscious element, so he is equating mind with the consciousness, which is the real self of the force. In the force there is consciousness hiding, so it comes out. He is calling consciousness the real force of the, real self of the force. In the force there is consciousness hiding. And which never ceases to exist in it, even when unmanifest. We know also that mind is an inferior power of the original conscious knowledge, knowledge with a K cap, or supermind. A power to which life acts as an instrumental energy. For descending through supermind, consciousness or chit represents itself as mind, force of consciousness or tapas represents itself as life. Okay? So, through supermind, consciousness or chit represents itself as mind, force of consciousness or tapas represents itself as life. Mind, by its separation from its own higher reality in supermind, gives life the appearance of division, and by its farther involution in its own life force, becomes subconscious in life, and thus gives the outward appearance of an inconscient force to its material workings. What he's saying is, he's talking about the involution. Satchidananda creates forms and the opposite of itself and involves itself in it. It hides itself in what it is creating. So in matter, there is life, And in life there is mind, and in mind there is supermind. And all are here like the Russian dolls, if you want, one inside the other. And one by one they are coming out. But they are coming out in reverse order. There at the highest level, supermind is first, and then Chit Shakti, and Sat Chit Shakti Ananda. So Sat is the first there, Chit Shakti second, and here it is opposite. Matter is producing life and mind and then supermind. Okay? So, therefore, the inconscience, the inertia, the atomic disaggregation of matter must have their source in this all-dividing and self-involving action of mind by which our universe came into being. I read that again. Therefore, the inconscience, the inertia, the atomic disaggregation of matter. Matter, even science is telling you that there are infinite atoms. So it's the atomic disaggregation must have their source in this all-dividing, self-involving action of mind by which the universe came into being. It is overmind, supermind and overmind, which is hiding and creating, dividing and becoming one with matter. And out of that again they'll rise. This is the involutionary process that he is describing. Yeah. As mind is only a final action of supermind in the descent towards creation, and life and action of conscious force working in the conditions of the ignorance created by this descent of mind, so matter as we know it is only the final form taken by conscious being. So when he's talking of being, he's talking of Sat. He's talking of existence. He's talking of subtle substance. Okay? As a result of that working. Now the second definition of matter. Second definition of matter is this. Matter is substance of the one conscious being, phenomenally divided within itself by the action of a universal mind. A division which the individual mind repeats and dwells in, but which does not abrogate or at all diminish the unity of spirit or the unity of energy or the real unity of matter.
Very interesting.
Neither matter is divided, nor is life divided, nor is mind divided, but it seems to be divided. That's what he's saying. Very clearly in the Gita also you have that vibhaktam. It seems to be divided, but it is actually avibhaktam. It is not divided. It is your senses that are seeming to divide the matter. If you go to another level of consciousness, you will start seeing the oneness and not the division. Even you go to the self, make a mind silent and go to the self, you start seeing the oneness. Instead of seeing 10 chairs, you will start seeing, oh, they are all wood. You start seeing the oneness. All our bodies seem to be different, but essentially they are the same. Bone, calcium in all, flesh is there, everything, and your body and my body is all considered of the same matter. So you start seeing the oneness of things in the higher mind, onwards. At our level, we are using our senses, so that is what seems to divide everything up. So we have landed up at the second definition of matter. It is substance being divided phenomenally. It seems to be divided by mind, but actually it is not divided.
Third note.
Oh, the footnote?
That's a footnote.
Okay. Yeah. He is talking of mind with an M cap is here used in its widest sense, including the operation of an overmind. There you are.
Yeah.
That's what I told you,
Yes.
that you have to be a little flexible. You have to
Yeah.
include the overmind also. Overmind power, which is nearest to the supramental truth consciousness and which is the first fountain of the creation of the ignorance. Beautiful. The fountain.
Oh, yes.
I use the word ooze. So it is. Supermind and overmind are the beginning of the creation of the many. The one becoming the many. Okay? In fact, there is another footnote on the other page which we did not read. So we read it now. I am going to read the footnote on page 249. Okay? So, mind as we know it creates only in a relative and instrumental sense. It has an unlimited power of combination, but its creative motives and forms come to it from above. All created forms have their base in the infinite above mind, life, matter, and are here represented, reconstructed, very usually misconstructed from the infinitesimal. Their foundation is above, their branchings downward, says the Rig Veda. The superconscious mind of which we speak might rather be called an overmind and inhabits in the hierarchical order of the powers of the spirit a zone directly dependent on the supramental consciousness. The one becoming the many. So he is talking here of the Vedas, Rig Veda. He says in the Rig Veda, the universe is considered to be an upside down tree. The roots are above and the branches are below. In the Gita also you have the same image, like an Ashwatha tree. The roots are above and the branches are below. And he is saying also mind is a creator. Now, this also we have to understand. Even our mind, our mortal mind is a creator. It has created the computer, it has created these cameras, it has created everything. So, but it's a secondary creator. It is not, it is using substance which already exists and it is combining them to create things. Whereas the original creative power is the supermind. It creates things which did not exist before. But we are creating things out of substance which already exists. That's why it is a secondary creative power.
What about like Einstein?
Yeah.
Einstein and his theories or realizations.
Yes.
They are creations also.
That's more a discovery, isn't it?
Maybe so.
It's a discovery.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
There is a difference between invention and discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Discovery is that which already exists, and invention you are creating something which did not exist. So Einstein's theories are all discoveries. He is discovering the reality of things. He has discovered that there is energy in matter. He has discovered that there is a relativity, which is absolutely true. So the relativity theory of Einstein is striking, because what he is saying becomes even more surprising at the spiritual level. What is Einstein saying? Everything is relative to the position you take, your frame of reference. We have discussed this once again, but I will repeat, okay? So, take the example of I'll give you two examples. One is, I take a thin rod and I place it at the eye level, like this, horizontally. What are you going to see? You are going to see only one point. You are just seeing one point. All this is included in the point. You go up, you will see a line. So depending on your position, you are seeing something totally different. How is that possible? Even more striking is the other example which he gives. I don't know if he gives, but anyway it is given usually. There is a man sitting in the train and the train is moving at a certain speed. He is throwing a ball up. He is playing with a ball and is going up. The movement of the ball for him is vertical. Okay, very, very clear. What about a man who is standing on the platform? How does he see the movement of the ball? He'll see it like this. You follow? The train is moving, he is static, and he is seeing the movement of the, because by the time the ball has gone up, it's coming here, it's coming here. So he is seeing this movement, whereas the other man is seeing this movement. So it depends exactly on your frame of reference. So this is the relativity that is discovered, and this is absolutely true even at the spiritual level. At our level, we are seeing the physical world as real. You go to the silent mind, you see the physical world as unreal. You go one more step up, again it becomes real, but not in our sense. It becomes, because we are seeing forms and we think that the forms are real. But when you go to the highest level, you are seeing the reality behind the forms. And Mother says something very interesting. She says that in the supramental world, it is even more striking. even the spiritual truths seem to be different. So there is a gradation of realities and a gradation of laws, and everything changes. At which level are you? That is why there is a Mayavada theory, there is a Buddhistic theory, there is Sri Aurobindo's theory. All three different, and from different points of view, they are speaking different things. All of them are right, relatively. So the only absolute will be supermind upwards. That would be the absolute. The rest is all relative. And that is what science has discovered. Although it's at the physical level only, it is strikingly true. It's a stroke of genius, actually.
Yes.